Hey, all you cats and kittens, welcome back to Alpha Flight Monday. My reading of Alpha Flight issues in order from 1 to whatever. I don't know how far I'm going to go with it this year. Every Monday we read an Alpha Flight comic. It's one of my favorite comic book series ever. And today we are on Alpha Flight number 7. Last week we were looking at the famous Snowblind issue in which John Byrne illustrated a fight in a blizzard in which you basically have a bunch of white panels with some sound effects and words. It's kind of famous. No all white panels for this one. But we're getting another sort of solo issue in Alpha Flight. The first 4 issues focused on Marina and the Master of the World. Well, issues 2 through 3 especially did. That was an arc, and we're gonna revisit that at some point in the future. In the last couple, we've had these sort of more solo issues, first with Puck, then with Snowbird, giving us a chance to get to know these characters individually, which is important because, part of a team book is the interaction between the individuals. And if you don't really know the individuals in the first place, those interactions might seem forced or false or, just created for a particular story. These issues, I think, are doing a nice job of giving us an idea of the personalities of the people within Alpha Flight. And because these were characters who were not in other books or very well known, it gave Byrne a lot of freedom to work with them and do some interesting things with them. So issue number 7, Aurora is back, but Northstar isn't sure he's happy about it. Great cover. Aurora's just kicked somebody's ass. She looks rather pleased with herself. Now, you will recall Aurora has multiple personalities. One of them, a very shy, retiring teacher at a girls' school. The other one, a very vivacious, lively superheroine who likes to mix it up. Well, let's dig on in. Okay. The importance of being deadly. My thanks to you, Dr. Bosson. You have been most kind. Not at all, Miss Bobier. It has been my pleasure to speak with you. Doctor, Montreal, the gleaming gemstone in Quebec's crown, a psychologist's office, just before noon. And these bits are translated from the French. John Byrne, our writer-artist, Andy Yankus, colorist, Michael Higgins, letterer, Denny O'Neill, editor, Jim Shooter, important. I should say this is from February of 84. So, yeah, I think this is... I always do these a little bit in advance. I believe this will be posted in February. So, oh, wow, yeah, like 84. So we're in 2024. 40 years ago to this month. Oh my God, I'm old. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just sit here and weep for a while. So I'll cut this. I'll cut all the weeping out so you don't have to sit through it. Well, Doctor, have you determined what is the matter with my sister? Can you help her? There is nothing the matter with me, Jean-Paul. As I have repeatedly told you, Dr. Bosson has simply confirmed that fact. Perhaps it would be better if we discuss this in my inner office, Mr. Bobier. Now, won't you please have a seat, Jean-Paul? You don't mind if I call you Jean-Paul. That is my name. You may please yourself, Doctor. But I did not come here to discuss polite etiquette. My sister is a very sick woman. And if I may interrupt, Jean-Paul, may I ask why you think your sister needs my help? I confess to having found her in no way psychologically unbalanced. Then perhaps I should seek out a more competent doctor. Northstar is not the most diplomatic fella in the world. I know my sister is unwell. I see it every moment we are together. And perhaps that is the true root of your problem, Jean-Paul. You and your sister were separated almost from birth. You grew up ignorant of each other's existence under very different social conditions. I'm inclined to think you imagine a failing in your sister because of the difference, but that is not a problem for me to resolve. So he's like going, oh, God, I should never brought him here. And so we're going to get a little bit of a primer on their lives. They were separated. She was raised in a Catholic girls' school, which is why she has the one persona that she does. And he is a Olympic skier and, kind of dashing and, all that. And he doesn't want to bring any of this up because obviously they have superpowers. They're part of Alpha Flight. They can't be real super public about that kind of thing. So as the doctor's continuing while he's thinking, can continue to see your sister if you insist, and if she is willing, but I suspect it will be nothing more than an expensive waste of time for both of you. And I should warn you of one other thing, Jean-Paul. If Jean-Marie is a split personality, as you believe, I cannot turn her into the person you wish her to be. She would be more likely to become a third personality, unlike either of the original two. I see. Then it would perhaps be wise for me to think about this. So off they go as Spider-Man hawks a fishing rod with Santa Claus. Indeed, and perhaps you might consider this. Your sister obviously has the potential to be a devastatingly beautiful woman. It is a great pity she chooses to leave that potential unrealized. That just doesn't seem like competent psychological advice to me. But that is a value judgment, not a psychological one. Oh, okay, good. We must all learn to accept our fellow human beings for who and what they are, not what we wish they could be. I am sure you're right, Doctor, just as I'm sure my concern for Jean-Marie has genuine grounds. Come, dear sister, it is time we had some lunch. So off they go in Montreal to have some lunch. And he's going to go to this cafe of a friend of his, Raymond Belmond. He helped me through some difficult times. Yes, I think I remember that name. It would be nice to meet some of your friends, Jean-Paul. Suddenly, the attacker is well practiced in his art. The assault is almost blindingly swift. So a purse snatcher runs by and grabs her purse. And without thinking, she zips into the Aurora personality. And she's a super speedster. So as quick as the purse snatcher is, he ain't quick enough. And she gets in front of him, and then she punches him, it looks like repeatedly, in the face. Yeah, the individual blows are no harder than any woman of normal strength might use. But 100 of them strike in scarcely a second. Ouch. And I like this line of hers, where she says, "Now, will you be so very kind to return my bag? Or do I have to borrow a page or two from dear Wolverine's book?" They're pals with Wolverine. Oh, by the way, Power Lord ad right here, in comic books, in action figures. Now the video game. I got a Power Lord sitting up on the shelf, and I am now contemplating making a move for it. Can I do it without knocking over my friggin' setup here? Ugh. And without knocking over any action figures? Oh boy. Alright. Power Lord. And so the idea behind these guys was that on the other side there's a whole other Power Lord, which is why they have two thumbs and their feet turn around. Wait a minute, they do. Oh, that's right, he just turns around at the waist. I think. Well, he doesn't want to turn around at the moment. Oh, there we go. Okay. Ta-da! Oh, and of course it's all nice and blurry. Get my hands out of there. Okay, so there's the Power Lord from the ad in the comic book. And let's get back to business. So Jean-Marie knocks the guy out. Jean-Marie, are you all right? But of course, brother dear. Save your concern for this would-be purse snatcher. Incredible. Once again, she has become her other self. But for how long? Perhaps we should move along now. Not at all. I have captured a felon, and I wish to see him incarcerated. And this is this speaks to John Byrne's capabilities. Let's go back a little bit. Here we have her, the jacket, the blouse, the glasses, the sort of severe haircut, the more severe look on her face. I should say hairstyle, really. And we already see she's loosening up here a little bit. And all of a sudden, same exact kind of outfit, really, but, a lot sexier. Hey, Byrne was good at his job. Half an hour later at a nearby police station, I'm sorry, but even with your testimony, we cannot hold him. His bond was posted even before you got here. Fantastic. Who would put up bail for such a lowlife? Surely he does not have someone looking out for him. I'm afraid that's exactly the case, Miss Beaubier. He works for a man named Ernest St. Ives. People around here called him Deadly Ernest. And why should this St. Ives have a hoodlum such as that on his payroll? Oh, he has a lot of cheap thugs working for him, Mr. Beaubier. It's rumored he has connections with the American Mafia. And that was Marvel's version of the Mafia. Which I remember as a kid, I was always like, I just thought maybe that was another term for it. I think it was actually kind of invented for the comics. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Okay, so this guy who snatched the purse, he gets out. And it's because of this Ernest St. Ives, Deadly Ernest. Remember that name. And so they're met by Raymond at the police station. Raymond, it is so good to see you. But what on earth are you doing here? Not looking for me, surely. What else? Am I not so spry as I once was? Oh, I am not so spry as I once was, but I have not lost my ears to the street. I heard what happened and hurried over immediately. Ahem. Oh, Raymond, may I present my sister, Jean-Marie? Enchanted, Mr. Belmont. Jean-Paul has told me all about you. He has? That surprises me a little, my dear. But may I say how delighted I am that Mother Nature so graciously imparted Jean-Paul's features to a woman, where handsome may become beautiful. Now let us get off the streets, no? I know you almost want to read that as the, I think you like the, why am I suddenly blanking on Pepe Le Pew? Now let us get off the streets, no? Minutes later, in the small restaurant owned by Raymond Belmont. Now, before we get there, this is a very meaningful panel. Especially that surprises me a little, my dear. Now, it's no big surprise at this point to people who are into Marvel Comics. But Northstar, Jean-Paul, is gay. It might have been a bigger surprise in 1984 to the primary audience for comic books. They make it even a little bit more obvious in this issue. They don't come right out with it, but I think anyone who is reading it who was a little more grown up would know. Now, I would have been 12 at the time. I don't know that I would have picked up on it, honestly. But, in case anybody thought that Jean-Paul being gay was something that was kind of like retconned later, no. Issue number 7, it's right there from the beginning. So, minutes later, in the small restaurant owned by Raymond Belmont, then you have not really told your sister all about me, after all, Jean-Paul. I thought that would have been odd. Not so odd as this place of yours, standing empty as a graveyard, and this, the height of the lunch hour. Ah, but who was it that said time is an illusion, lunchtime doubly so? I believe it was an alien who called himself Ford Fairmont. You are widely read, Mr. Belmont, and you are a chameleon goddess, my dear. And so now she's kind of changed more into her kind of sexy, vivacious look as Aurora. You are too kind. I do the best I can, considering the poor scraps Jean-Marie gives me to work with. Jean-Marie, my dear, you say that name as if you were speaking of another woman, and one you do not especially like. My sister teaches in a very prim and proper girls' school, Raymond. She tends to speak of that part of her life as though it were someone else. Isn't that right? Whatever you say, dear brother. But, Mr. Belmont, I too am curious about your empty cafe. So here they're going to find out a little bit more about what's going on, in this situation. And essentially, there's pressure being put on him. It's by St. Ives, who wants to buy this bistro. And while he's telling them this, he's interrupted. Father, things are bad enough. Do not make them worse by involving strangers. Danielle, I did not know you were home. Raymond, this is your daughter? But how? I mean, you never told me of a daughter. Danielle has only recently entered my life again, Jean-Paul. She is a treasured reminder of the very different man I once was. Since the death of her dear mother, she has been living here with me. Danielle, permit me to introduce Jean-Marie and Jean-Paul Bobier. Bobier? Not the Jean-Paul Bobier, the ski champion? The same, mademoiselle. You have not been long with your father? Only 2 months. I am studying the classics at McGill University, and I'm sure this is all very interesting, but I still wish to know how you were involved with this St. Ives person, Raymond. After all, it was one of his goons who assaulted us. Okay, so again, they're setting it up. These two obviously had a relationship. He was unaware that Raymond had been married once and had a daughter. So, I think an adult would be able to pick all that up without any problems. A 12-year-old probably wouldn't really. So 1 minute later. No trouble now. We have come for Raymond Belmont. Indeed. And does it take 2 hulking brutes to kidnap one old man? Careful, Danielle. I'll handle this. Save the heroics, pretty boy. We don't have time to waste on you. Oomph. Oh. Blast it. I could take care of these thugs easily. But dare I reveal my powers before Danielle? Raymond! Meanwhile, Aurora is having similar thoughts. I'll play along with these fools for a while until we see St. Ives. So, these thugs have kidnapped Raymond, and they've kidnapped Aurora. So Jean-Paul has some reason not to show his powers. Not just the whole secret identity, but he uses his powers to help him win ski championships, which could be considered cheating. So he's got to be a little careful about it. Now we meet Ernest St. Ives. He removes a glove from his hand as he says, I am offering you the perfect opportunity to retire, to relax, and spend your last few years playing with your grandchildren. Most men your age have spent all their lives dreaming of such peace. Spare me your philosophizing, Ernest. I am deeply sorry it must come to this, Raymond. But you understand you leave me no choice. So St. Ives' hand is hot and dry, coarse against Belmont's flesh. At first, the older man is shocked, outraged at his cruel assault. Then shock turns quickly to amazement, to a brief flash of panic, and then to nothing. Great art, by the way, on Raymond. I mean, just a lot of character in that face. And he falls over, dead. No! Raymond! What about this girl, sir? She was with the old man. What happened? All St. Ives did was touch Raymond, and is that the daughter? She will be negotiating the sale. Now Raymond is gone. Bring her. Yes, sir. Hey, oomph! And they push her in the car. And he says, now stay back, all of you. Miss Belmont and I have business to discuss. If anyone tries to follow, she joins her father. Jean-Paul, do as he says. He's like, oh, no. So, Jean-Paul is angry. He's just had a man he loved. They're clearly not in a relationship anymore, but they obviously parted on good terms. He's seen him killed in the street. His sister, whom he loves very deeply, has been kidnapped. You have made a grievous error, Ernest St. Ives. You have taken from me my sister and my friend, and for that I will kill you. Unconnected interlude. Winnipeg, Manitoba. The recently completed Southbrook Mall, bustling new center of activity for the capital of Canada's most eastern prairie province. The scent of newness fills the air, and shoppers feel that unmistakable electricity common to all malls. All the shops and stores carry the same familiar items, but their new surroundings lend to them a strangeness. In one of the upper levels, an all-comers chess match is in progress against one man. 12:28. I am overdue for my luncheon break. We will complete this game when I return. Hey, when's that going to be? I don't want to sit here all day, you know. I shall return in no more than 40 minutes. I suggest you look upon that as time to be well spent, contemplating the ridiculous position into which have maneuvered your king. There's missing a word there, I believe. Minutes later. There you go, Mr. T. 1 plain hot dog, 1 black coffee. Thank you, Meg. No doubt your culinary marvels are, as usual, unexcelled. Leaving the hot dog stand and the bustle of the mall, the gaunt man wanders into a seldom-used passage. Idiots. Why do I waste my time with them? My IQ is higher than everyone in the mall combined. Yet the best I can do is Alec Thorne, or should I say Smart Alec of Gamma Flight? Who are you? Why on earth do you call me that? Don't be alarmed, Mr. Thorne. My name is Delphine Courtney. My employer and I are involved in a project you may find of interest. 5 more words she speaks after that, and Alec Thorne finds himself immediately enthralled. His erstwhile chess partners will have a wait substantially more than 40 minutes today. Oh, so what's going on? Are we setting the scene for something new? No, I'm sure he just put that in for no reason at all. Okay, continuing the origins of Alpha Flight. So, our main story ends. Northstar is going to kill somebody. And somebody by the name of Delphine Courtney has picked up a member of Gamma Flight, Smart Alec, who obviously there is no Gamma Flight anymore because the whole Department H has been closed down. So maybe call him ex-Gamma Flight. She's picked him up for reasons unknown. So now, let a child be born. 15 years ago, an archaeological dig north of the Arctic Circle. For many long months, patient hands have worked to strip away the frozen layers of tundra, soil as hard as processed steel, and today, for the first time, significant discoveries will be unearthed. Professor Camperton. Now, which one is he, David? Professor Camperton. Dr. Efford, I've found something. Easton, I think. Richard Easton. Look, Professor, isn't it wonderful? A headband. Unusual to find one in metal this far north, and I don't recognize the culture. Where did you find this? It was in my pocket. Over in the northeastern quadrant. It was about 7 layers down. It must have been here for thousands of years. Perhaps. You mustn't let your enthusiasm overcome your objectivity, Richard. One mistaken identification could color the results of this entire dig. Quite so, Ruth. Log and file the piece, Richard, with all the proper notations. So this archaeologist has found this interesting metal headband in this archaeological dig. It's somewhat out of place. Slightly defeated, Richard Easton returns to work. But late that night, as the rest of the camp sleeps, like an itch he cannot scratch, the tiny voices tickle the underside of his mind, calling, and thus compelled he follows, until, in the storage tent, he finds his destiny. He puts on the headband, and who appears but these spirits? Fear not, human, we mean you no harm. Instead, we beg a boon of you. I am Nirvana, mortal goddess of the northern lights. I need the precious seed of humanity you carry within you. You don't mean, you can't mean. The concept appalls him, daughter, as I feared it would. He is bound by human prejudices of youth and beauty. Yet our time is so short, Hodiak. How can our end be gained? Set at ease your mind, cousins. The Shaper's power is mine, to mask all things we would not wish seen or known, or grant the wildest fantasy of a small mind. Now, mortal, will you grant yourself one night of pleasures as the price for saving the world? And how? Saving a world? What do you mean? The forces of ancient evil are abroad. The headband you wear is a symbol of a great and terrible power. If the evil is to be held in check, the world must have a champion, and we are trapped. Trapped? Explanations later. Take my hand, human. Draw me into your arms, your world. Give me your seed, your love. Give me power. Later. Richard Easton again walks the cold, hard lands above the Arctic Circle, and finds much has changed. The dig, what happened? Hey, you. Bullpen bulletins, James Bond. This is private government property, Buster. You better have a good reason for... Lars, wait a minute. My gosh, it's Easton, isn't it? Dickie Easton, I thought you were dead. Carmichael? What's going on here? Why has the dig been buried? Where's Professor Camperton? Camperton? Where have you been? Camperton died, must be 9 years ago. Died? 9 years? No, that isn't possible. I was in the realm of the gods only one night. 1 night? This must be some awful trick. It's the evil ones, that's it. You're not Carmichael. You're some agent of the beasts. They told me, warned me, Nelvana and Hodiak. They said the beasts were weakening the barriers, that small-minded men would serve as their agents. That's what happened. You murdered all the others. You want, oh dear heaven, you want the headband that can raise Tundra. Tundra? Look, I don't know what you're yammering about, pal, but it seems to me like you're a pretty sick guy. We'd better, no, Easton, wait. No, you're devils, agents of the beast, but you won't catch me, you won't. So off he runs. Into the night, the evening, not sure. Let a year roll by. Richard Easton becomes a dim memory, a whatever happened to, cropping up less and less as former colleagues and friends meet and talk of times past. Now, to this cold, bare land comes another stranger, but a man as unlike Easton as winter is to summer. He is Michael to Youngman, but this day he wears the sacred garb of a Sakri shaman. It is near now. The mystic energies that drew me here are strongest in this place. So let the conjuring commence. He reaches out with soul and mind to tap the hidden powers that swirl across the face of the north, and a tiny portal opens. Michael to Youngman, I am Nelvana, and I am near my time, and I have need of your skills. The Great Spirit spoke to me in dreams and told me of your need, goddess. And though my power has yet to face so great a test, I understand what is required of me. Let us begin. And so, Michael to Youngman delivers a baby. A child, half god, half human, nestles into his strong arms. A child already a year old. The lifeline of shaman is thus inextricably intertwined with that of the child who will become Snowbird. Next issue, an old friend re-enters Michael to Youngman's life, and Department H gains 2 powerful agents. Don't miss Genesis in 30 days. And we get the traditional ads, AD&D video game and television, and Super Cobra, which has the power to kill you. My God. No. So, Alpha Flight, we get a bit of a solo story with Aurora and Northstar, dealing with some, well, you'd probably call them street-level thugs, but their leader is obviously a supervillain, as his touch can kill. And then we also get a little bit of Snowbird's origin and how it's linked to Shaman. Next Monday, Betrayal. Oh my goodness. It reminds you a little bit of the old romance covers, which, you know, early Marvel, before the superheroes, Marvel was a lot of romance books and monster books. And it's really interesting the way the monster and romance stuff sort of just transitioned into the superhero universe that Marvel did. You get, you know, Spider-Man with sort of his, you know, somewhat romantic but also just general life entanglements, you know, that you would get in a lot of the sort of soap opera sort of romance books of the time. You get monsters like the Hulk, the Thing, you know, and some of the creatures they fight. It's a really interesting transition. I think it's one of the things that makes Marvel distinct from DC Comics, who did have books like that, obviously, as well. But the foundations for their superheroes were in the Golden Age and into the Silver Age. It was a very different foundation, and that's why there's a different tone to the two books. Marvel's always a little more dramatic, you know, to DC. DC is more like Dragnet, and Marvel's more like Starsky and Hutch. But anyway, so next week, Alpha Flight number 8, Betrayal. What do you think of Aurora being back? What do you think of John Byrne's portrayal? You know, he's hitting on some pretty, you know, let's call them grown-up themes here, even though the, you know, Northstar being gay is not just like right out real loud. It's pretty obvious if you understand anything about, you know, life, if you're a grown-up. But it is right there. And you know, it's, you wonder, were there reservations about this? Was Marvel sort of like, we don't necessarily want to go there at this point? You don't know. But we also get the psychological issues with Aurora and the split personality thing. So some pretty interesting stuff that he's using in the book. So what do you think about it? How do you feel about these characters? Any thoughts you have on Alpha Flight, the Canadian Mall? Did you ever shop there? I'd love to hear. I actually would love to hear about that, because Alpha Flight was also kind of an interesting travel log for those of us who are from the United States and didn't really know much about Canada. That they're always kind of introducing you to things that are just sort of like, not like necessarily big monuments in Canada, but just daily life in Canada. And it was always kind of interesting. So anyways, love to hear your comments. If you enjoy the video, please maybe think about subscribing, and maybe sharing with a friend. That would be really groovy, as it helps my little channel grow into a mighty oak. In the meantime, God bless everybody, and I do mean everybody. Try to be kind to one another out there, and try to have a little bit of fun. And I will see you again in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.